Okay, today we're going to talk about how we can prove triangles are congruent. There are 5 ways we can show or prove that triangles are congruent. And they are SSS, SAS, ASA, AAS, and HL. Ooh, that's a tongue twister. So we need to know what all these little letters indicate. If you see an S, S means side. If you see an A, that means angle. And we'll talk about the H and the L on the back side of this notes page. The first way we're going to look at is side, 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 congruence. And so we abbreviate that as SSS. But when I ask you in class, how are the triangles congruent? Please don't say SSS. Tell me side, side, side. All right, so I'm going to do this with pictures instead of all the lengthy words because I think pictures kind of makes it come to life a little bit. So if you have 2 triangles, I'm going to call one triangle TAB, and I'm going to call the other triangle CLD. Just making up some letters here, nothing special about them. And I'm going to put some markings on these triangles. I'm going to say that TA is congruent to CL because they have that same congruence tick mark. AB is congruent to LD. TB is congruent to CD. So if you have this situation where you have 2 triangles and one leg of each triangle is marked congruent, and that's true for all 3 sides, then we can say that triangle TAB is congruent to triangle CLD. And the way that you write your congruent statement, that's what this is called. This is a congruent statement. Order of the letters matters. I have to make sure that I put the corresponding congruent sides in the same order. So I just named my TA side with the CL side because they are corresponding. So if you take a look at the triangle, TA and CL are congruent. AB and CL are congruent. And then of course TB and CD are congruent. So the order in which you name your congruent statement definitely matters. Order matters. And I just erased that by accident. We'll get that back. Okay, so there's my congruent statement. The order of your letters definitely matters. They have to be in corresponding order. The next thing before we talk about side, angle, side is we need to talk about what an included angle is. An included angle is going to be an angle that is between 2 marked angles, or excuse me, 2 marked sides. What does that mean? Well, let me show you a picture. So say I have triangle ABC. A is congruent to some other angle of another triangle somewhere. B is congruent to some other angle in some other triangle somewhere. Why do I keep wanting to do sides? That is not sides. I'm trying to do an included angle. All right, back up. Erase what you just wrote. And if you ever need to, you can always pause and replay, but I would not pause there because I screwed up. All right, so instead we want an included angle. So we need congruent sides. So I'm going to say AB, side AB is congruent to some side somewhere else. AC is congruent to some other side of some other triangle. So the angle that is between the 2 marked sides is angle A. So angle A is the included angle. So angle A is an included angle. All right. I keep thinking included side, and that's coming up, but we're talking about included angle. That is the angle that falls between 2 marked sides. So in this diagram, for example, it would be angle A. And we need to know that so we can talk about side, angle, side. Again, I'm going to draw a picture. So if I've got triangle ABC and I have triangle DEF, and I've got side AB is congruent to DE, side BC is congruent to side EF, and then I have angle B is congruent to angle E. And I actually want to do all that with marks of red, just because I like to make those things stick out. So I'm just going to go through and make those in red, like so. So now I have two triangles that are congruent because of side, angle, side. So I can say triangle ABC. Make sure you go in the correct order when you name them. When you name your first triangle, it doesn't matter how you name it. I'm just going to call it ABC because it's alphabetical order. Then it is congruent to triangle. I named AB first, so that corresponds with side DE. And then, of course, that would leave me with the F. So ABC is congruent to triangle DEF. Make sure the order is the same, and that is called a congruent statement. So anytime you're looking at a worksheet and they say write the congruent statement for the triangle congruents, if they're congruent, that's what they're talking about. All right, so side, angle, side. It's got to be side, angle, side. The angle has got to be between the two marked sides in order to be side, angle, side. And even if you look at SAS, angle falls between the two sides. And that's going to be important because we have another one that we're going to look at. Angle, angle, side, and angle, side, angle are next. All right, so now we've got an included side. This is going to be a side that is between two marked angles. This is what I was trying to say earlier, but I was doing the wrong definition. All right, side that is between two marked angles. Let's draw a picture to go with that. We'll do triangle MAP. Triangle map. So an included side would be the side that falls between two marked angles. So angle M is congruent to some other triangle's angle. Angle A is congruent to some other triangle's angle. So the side that falls between these two marked angles is MA. So MA is an included side. Okay, so any side that falls between the marked angles is called the included side. So we need this included side to talk about angle, side, angle. Even if you look at the letters, angle, side, angle, S is between the two A's, indicating the side is between the two angles. Makes perfect sense. So if I have a triangle, we'll call MAP. I have another triangle we will call, let's see here. I'm trying to think of some cool letters, and you guys are probably like, use this, use that. I'm trying to think of some three-letter words. My brain's tired. We'll do COT. We don't usually generally use .0 because it looks like a 0, but that'll work. Okay, so say I have angle M is congruent to angle C. We have side MA. Oh, no, I want to do this in red again. I like for them to pop out at you. Okay, so I have this situation going on here. C and M are congruent. Angle A and angle O are congruent. And side MA and side CO are congruent. So if you take a look, you've got an angle, an included side, and an angle. So that is angle, side, angle. Angle, side, angle. That side has got to be sandwiched between the two angles. If you have that situation, then we can say that triangle MAP is congruent to triangle COT. And the reason is angle, side, angle. And I'll do some examples with you guys so you can see what they look like what the problems look like given to you. All right, the fourth way out of the 5 ways to show triangles are congruent is angle, angle, side. So angle, angle, side, if you notice that side is not between the 2 angles, so it's going to be a non-included side. So if I have a triangle, CAT, and another triangle, DOG, and I know that C is congruent to D, A is congruent to O, and AT is congruent to OG. Now take a look at the angle, side, angle triangles above, and then the angle, angle, side triangles below. They look similar because they both have 2 marked angles, but the side is either between the 2 angles or not between the 2 angles. So there is a huge difference between these 2 types of congruent statements or congruent reasonings. So you either have the angle between or the angle not between. There is a difference. One's angle, side, angle, and one is angle, angle, side. All right, so if I have this situation here, then I can say that triangle CAT is congruent to triangle DOG. And again, naming them is very important with corresponding sides. And the reason would be angle, angle, side. Okay, so those are the 4 of the 5 ways to show triangles are congruent. And if I said anything really fast or wrote something really fast, you know you can always pause the video so you can catch up. But those are 4 out of the 5. Number 5 is on the back. That uses the HL. H is for hypotenuse, L is for leg. So I wonder what kind of triangle has a hypotenuse and a leg. That's what we're going to talk about next. All right, so now we're going to flip our paper over. And we are going to talk about hypotenuse leg theorem. This is the 5th way to show triangles are congruent. There are only 5 ways to show triangles are congruent. Hypotenuse leg theorem, also known as HL, you can definitely abbreviate that as HL. It has to have 3 things. Much like the other side, you had side, 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 angle, side, angle, angle, side, angle, side, angle. You need 3 things marked on your triangles. If you don't have 3 things marked on your triangle, then there's no way to show that those triangles are congruent. And we can't just start adding stuff because we feel like it. We'll talk about that soon enough. All right, so what 3 things do I need for HL? Well, one of them is it needs to be a right triangle. You'll know it's a right triangle because it will be marked with the right angle box. I'm going to put that in red because that's super important. The second thing you need is you need to have congruent hypotenuse. Is that hypoteni? Congruent hypotenuse. I don't know what hypotenuse is. Hypoteni. I don't know what the plural version is of a hypotenuse. And you need to have congruent legs. And they have to be corresponding legs. Congruent corresponding legs. So what does that look like, you ask? I shall show you. So I have a right triangle we can call POT. And I have another right triangle we can call LEG. Who knows? All right, so I've got 2 right triangles, and I'm going to say that the hypotenuse and PT and the hypotenuse LG are congruent, and corresponding legs OT and EG are congruent. So that'll be given to you marked like that. And so now we have enough information to say that these triangles are congruent. So we can say triangle POT is congruent to triangle LEG. And the reason would be hypotenuse leg. And like I said, we're going to go through some examples here, so hopefully you can distinguish what these triangles look like and how are they congruent. You're going to pick one of the 5 ways. We're not going to add anything like legs and angles and such, except for 2 tiny itsy bitsy things that we can always look for. So let's talk about that now, because there are going to be some times where we can add some stuff. Very few things we are allowed to add legally. So we're going to always look for a shared side. So what does that look like? That's if your triangles are touching, like this. So if you get a picture where your triangles are touching and they share a side, then you can mark, those sides congruent because they're shared. So I can say whatever those side, maybe it's BC, whatever. So that's a shared side, so we're legally allowed to add those congruent markings. So I could say that BC is congruent to itself, and that is because there's a reason for that. It's called the reflexive property. Very important, we use it a lot. So BC is congruent to itself because of the reflexive property. When we start writing proofs, you're going to need to know the reason that they're congruent is because of the reflexive property. And so we're able to legally mark that because it's a shared side. Another thing that we can look for and that we're able to legally add is vertical angles. Remember we talked about vertical angles? Vertical angles happens when you have an X. And guess what? When we're working with triangles, X's will appear. So here you see two triangles, and I'm going to call this triangle ABC and triangle CDE. And so inside my triangle, I'm allowed to legally add vertical angles because we may need to have some congruent angles, so we can use angle, angle, side, or angle, side, angle, something like that. So I can say that angle ACB is congruent to angle DCE because of vertical angles. We already know vertical angles are congruent. So those are the only two times you're allowed to mark anything on your pictures. If I see you adding sides and angles that are not shared and they're not vertical, you are wrong, wrong, wrong. So if I see you marking something, I'm probably going to ask you, why did you mark those sides congruent? And you're going to be like, I don't know, because they look like they were congruent. That is not a legit reason to mark anything on our triangles. It's got to be a shared side or it's got to be vertical angles. Okay, so there are 5 ways to show triangles are congruent. Side, 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 angle, side, angle, side, angle, 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 side, and HL. And then there's some extra things that we're allowed to legally add, and that's a shared side because of the reflexive property, and vertical angles because we know all vertical angles are equal. Okay, so now we're going to move on to some examples where we're going to put all of this into some problems here that may or may not help you make sense. Hopefully it will help you make sense. All right, so turn the page, here we go. Determine whether the following triangles are congruent. If they are, name the triangle congruence. Pay attention to proper correspondence when naming the triangles. So that's where we talk about that congruent statement. Make sure that your angles and your sides are all lined up correctly. And then you're going to identify the theorem or postulate, and it tells you side, 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 angle, 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 side, or HL that supports your conclusion. So why are those triangles congruent? It's got to be one of these 5 ways. So let me get my edit ready. So we're going to put one of these reasons for why they're congruent. And if they're not able to show that they're congruent because there's not enough information, you're just going to put not possible. All right. And then, of course, it says, given that the reason is not possible. All right, so let's talk about number 1. The first thing you need to do is you need to determine, is there anything legal you can add? In other words, there's only 2 things that we look for, shared side or vertical angles. So in this picture, before I try to determine, are my triangles congruent, can I add anything like a shared side or vertical angles? And the answer is yes. BD is congruent to itself because of reflexive. It is a shared side between those 2 triangles. So now you want to ask yourself, do you have 3 things? So first you want to ask yourself, shared side or vertical angles? Shared side or vertical angles? Mark it if you have them. Then you want to ask yourself, do you have 3 things marked? I feel like I'm on that one. Price is Right. Do I have 3 numbers correct? All right, anyways. 3 things marked. Because if you don't have 3 things marked, then you don't have enough information. I need to have 3 things, whether it's 3 sides, 2 sides and an angle, 2 angles and a side, or hypotenuse and a leg with the being a right triangle. So if you take a look at number 1, if it helps, just eyeball one triangle. Okay, so if I focus in on this one triangle, color it in if that helps. So if I focus in on this one triangle, if you notice I have a leg marked, an angle marked, and we were able to legally add those, the double tick marks on BD because of the reflexive. Do I have 3 things marked? Absolutely. So are they congruent? Yes, because I have 3 things marked. And they're good 3 things. We're going to talk about that in a minute too. So what 3 things do I have marked? I have a side, an included angle, and a side. So the reason they're congruent is side, angle, side. If you take a look in that picture, the angle falls between the 2 sides. So now I'm ready to name my triangle. They called the first one A, B, D. So they went from A, B, D. So when I name the second one, I have to go in that same corresponding order. So A is congruent to C, B is congruent to B, and D is congruent to D. So that's your congruent statement. All right, let's take a look at number 2. Do you have a shared side? The answer is no. Do you have vertical angles? The answer is no. Are your triangles congruent? Well, I don't know. Do I have 3 things marked? It looks like I've only got 1, 2 things marked, because remember, we're only looking at one triangle. In the one triangle, I only have 2 things marked. So are they congruent? Nope. I don't have enough information. So you can put not possible. NP for not possible. Put NP for not possible. We don't have enough information there. All right, let's take a look at number 3. Remember, you want to ask yourself, do you have vertical angles or do you have a shared side? The triangles are not touching, so I don't have a shared side, nor do I have an X, so I don't have vertical angles. So then you want to ask yourself, do you have 3 things? I do have 3 things. I have 2 sides and a non-included angle. Now this is where it's going to get tricky. Again, I'm only looking at one triangle if it helps color one triangle in. All right, so what I have is a side, and a non-included angle. I'm going around my triangle. A side, and a non-included angle. So some students will argue and say, well, that's side, angle, side. But the angle does not fall between the 2 sides. So it's not side, angle, side. It's side, side, angle. Is that one of the 5 ways we have to show triangles are congruent? Nope. That is a wordy-durd backwards. We are not going to put wordy-durds backwards on our paper. Do you see it? It's a bad word. No bad words in math. So this is no, not possible. Please don't put yes and put this as your reason, or flip it around and put this. If you notice when I flipped it around, you just put a bad word on your paper. Okay, those are not one of the 5 ways to prove triangles are congruent. My son's over there laughing at me. All right, so be careful if you do have 3 things marked. Make sure they're good 3 things, because angle, angle, angle is bad. Your triangles aren't broke down. You don't need to call AAA. And side, side, angle is a wordy-durd. These are not ways to prove triangles are congruent. So we're not going to put angle, 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 or side, side, angle. Okay, so just remember that. Don't put a bad word on your paper. Someone's bound to do it. And then I'll call you out in front of the whole class. And then we'll laugh at you. And then I'll call your mom and say you put a bad word on your paper. I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do that. Unless you purposely did it. All right, number 4. Can I add vertical angles? No. Can I add a shared side? No. And at any point, if you want to pause the video and try the problem before I do and see if you got it right, feel free to, because hopefully you're starting to see these come together, and so hopefully you can start working ahead. And if you do, just pause the video and then you can check your answer to see if you're getting them right or not. All right, so number 4, I have 3 things. It appears to have 3 sides. So is 3 sides one of my 5 ways to show triangles are congruent? Yep. And again, if it helps, you can color in one of the triangles. That's all we're focusing on, making sure that I have 3 things marked on one triangle, not 3 things marked on the combination of the 2 triangles. All right, so I have 3 sides. So yes, my triangles are congruent because of side, side, side. Now naming this is tricky. They started with S, then they went to T, and then they went to U. So it looks like they started between the tick marks of the 2 and the 3. So if I come over to my other triangle, that would be the V. Then they went down the side with the 2 tick marks. So I'm going to go down the side with my 2 tick marks to X. And then that leaves me W. So be careful when you're naming your triangles. Use the side tick marks to help you. Or if you want to try number 5, you can pause and then join us in a minute and see if you get it right. Number 5, is there anything I can add? Yes. I can add a shared side because of the reflexive property. And that's the only thing I can add. So now you want to ask yourself, do you have 3 things marked? Well, if I look at just one of my triangles, remember I can't legally add anything else except for that shared side. So if you look, I have a right angle and I have 1 side. That's only 2 things. I need 3 things. So there's not enough information. This is not possible to prove those 2 triangles are congruent. All right, number 6. You're looking to see if you can add anything legally. They don't share a side. There's no vertical angles, so I'm good there. Do I have 3 things? I do have 3 things. And some students will want to say that this is hypotenuse leg. Hypotenuse is not marked congruent on either one of the 2 triangles, so it's not hypotenuse leg. Instead, if I take a look at my pieces that are marked, again, just focus in on one triangle. So if I look at this one triangle, I have a side, an included angle, because all right angles are equal. So we know that D and G are congruent because they're both 90 degrees, and 90 degrees equals 90 degrees. So I have 2 sides and an included angle. So 2 sides and an included angle is side, angle, side. So they are congruent because of side, angle, side. So let's see how we name that first triangle, C, D, and then E. So I'm going to start with F, go to the right angle at G, and then that leaves me with my H. So name them, order matters, name them in the correct order. Again, if I'm going too fast, you can always pause the video, rewind, and rewatch. Okay, so let's flip it to the next page. Let me get my edit on here. All right, the next one, is there anything legal you can add? That's what you should be asking yourself on each one of these problems. And the answer here is yes, they share a side. So we can mark that because of the reflexive property. Now you want to look at one triangle and see if there's anything, not anything, you want to see if there's 3 sides that are marked or 3 angles or whatever. So I've got one side and I've got another side and I have an angle that was marked. So I have 3 pieces. So yes, I can prove them to be congruent, and the reason is I have a side, an included angle, and another side. And so to name this triangle, we start with K, we move to J, and then M. So when I go to name my other triangle, I'm going to start with the other angle that's marked, which is M. And then I'm going to go down the 1 tick mark to L and down to K. Order matters. Number 8, can I legally add anything? Why, yes, I can. I can add PR because of a reflexive property. So if I focus in on one of my triangles, do I have 3 things? These are the questions you're asking yourself. I do have 3 things. What 3 things do you have? Side, side, side. So now I'm ready to name my triangle. NP corresponds to QP, which leaves me R. Again, you can pause the video and try these, and then unpause to see if you're getting them correct. Number 9, can you add anything? Yes. You've got vertical angles. Look at one of your triangles. Do you have 3 things marked? Yes. What 3 things do you have marked? Well, it looks like I have a non-included angle and a side and a side. Uh-oh, can I put that on my paper? No. So we need to erase that real quick before anybody sees that bad word. So remember, that is not one of our 5 ways. So we have to put no, that is not possible. Even if you spell it backwards, it's still a wordy dird. So be careful there. You got a non-included side, and some students will go, well, can I use side, angle, side? My question is that angle between the 2 sides marked? Is that an included angle? And the answer there is no. So that's why we can't use side, angle, side. All right, let's take a look at number 10. If you want to, pause the video, give it a go, see what you get. Can I add anything? Yes, I can add vertical angles. Do I have 3 things marked? Yes. Are they 3 good things? No. They're not 3 good things. I have a non-included angle, so that's that wordy dirt again. We have a side, side, and a non-included angle. That's not one of the 5 ways to show triangles are congruent. So we're not going to put that on our paper. And notice anything that says no for the congruence and not possible to prove that they're congruent, we're not writing a congruent statement because they're not congruent. All right, number 11, can I add anything? Why, yes, I can. They share a side, so we're going to mark it congruent. Ask yourself, do you have 3 things? Yes, you do. Are they 3 good things? Yes, they are. What are the 3 good things? The side, side, side. So triangle DEG is congruent to FGE. Order matters when you're naming your triangles, so just be careful there. Number 12. Do I have to add anything? If you did, you would add vertical angles, but do I already have 3 things? I've already got 3 things marked. So if you caught that before adding your vertical angles, you're good to go. And you'd say yes. And the reason is side, side, side. And your triangle is HJK. So you would do MLK. But maybe you just asked yourself, can I add anything? And you went ahead and added. You would still have yes for congruence, but now you can do side, angle, side. Because now you have that angle between the 2 sides. So both of those reasons work. But I couldn't do angle, side, side because that's a wordy dirt. Number 13, ask yourself, can you legally add anything? Yes, you can. They share a side, so you can mark that. Focus on one triangle. Do you have 3 things marked on that one triangle? No, you do not. So it's not possible to prove those triangles are congruent. Number 14, can you legally add anything? No, but I still get students adding this angle here, and they call that vertical angles. That is not vertical angles. It does not make the letter X. So that is incorrect. Those are not vertical angles, and so we will not mark them. They don't share a side, so I can't mark a side. So the next thing I'm going to do is look at one of my triangles and just hope I have 3 pieces marked. Do I have 3 pieces marked? Nope. I only have a side and an angle, so I do not have enough information. So it's not possible. Number 15, again, I'll get students that want to mark these angles congruent. Does not make an X, so they are not congruent because they're not vertical. And I don't have a shared side, so I'm ready to focus in on one triangle, and I'm going to look at my one triangle and see if I have 3 pieces marked. I only have 2. So no, they're not congruent. I do not have enough information, so we say not possible. So hopefully you paused through the video and did some of these on your own. And if I went too fast, you can pause and rewind. Hopefully you didn't just let me do all the work for you. and you copied the answers down because that is not going to help you. All right, I think that, oh man, we still have 2 more pages. All right, here we go. You guys are going to be excellent at showing triangles are congruent, or really bored with this lengthy video. One or the other. All right, number 16. What can I legally add? Anything? Why, yes, I can. They share a side, so I can mark that GK congruent with itself because of the reflexive property. And that's the only thing I can add. So now I'm ready to look at my 2 triangles. Look at one, focus in on it. Do you have 3 things marked? No. So it's not possible to prove that those are congruent. Number 17, can I legally add anything? Yes, they share a common side. So now I want to look at one of my triangles. Do I have 3 things marked? I do have 3 things marked. I have a right angle, a side, and a side. But if you notice, it almost looks like an angle, a side, and a side. Yee. Can't put that on my paper, so we're going to erase that real quick. And so maybe I could put not possible, but remember HL? HL, you must have a right triangle. Do I have a right triangle? Yes. Do I have a hypotenuse? Yes. Do I have a leg? Yes. So I have 3 things, so yes, they are congruent because of the HL theorem. Hypotenuse leg. So be careful there. A lot of times we leave out the hypotenuse leg because we forget about our right triangles. All right, so now I need to name my triangle. I got KLP. So because we started with K, we're going to start with M, go to L, and then P. Number 18, can I legally add anything? Yes. SQ, because they share it, it is common between the 2 of them. You can mark it because of the reflexive property. It's the only thing I can add, so now I'm ready to look. Do I have 3 things? Nope. I only have 2, so it's not possible. Number 19, can I legally add anything? Nope. Do I have enough stuff? Nope. Are they congruent? I don't have enough information. Number 20, what are you going to ask yourself? Yes, you can legally add a shared side. You're going to ask yourself, what next? Do you have 3 pieces? Yes, we do. What 3 pieces do I have? I have an angle, an included side, and another angle. So angle, side, angle. STB is congruent to UVT. Number 21. Number 21, can I legally add anything? Yes. Give those 2 tick marks because 1 tick mark has already been used. And now I'm going to look at my triangle. Do I have 3 things marked? I do. What 3 things do I have marked? I've got an angle, and a non-included side. So that is a good reason to show triangles are congruent. So WXY is congruent to AZY. Number 22, I can add vertical angles. Look at one of my triangles. Ask yourself if you have 3 pieces. Do you have 3 pieces? Yes, you do. Are they 3 good pieces? Yes, they are. An angle, and a non-included side. BCE is congruent to DCF. Hopefully you've paused and you're checking your work and seeing if you can get them correct. Number 23, give it a go. I'm going to add vertical angles. It's the only thing you can add. I'm going to look at my 2 triangles and I'm going to say I only have 2 pieces. I need 3. So not enough information. Not possible. 24. Can I add anything? Nope. Do I have enough stuff? Nope. I need 3 pieces. They've only given me 2. So no, not possible. Still with me? It's only a 40-minute video. It's good stuff. Done. Flip the paper. Last page. Here we go. 25. Can I add anything? No. Do I need to? Nope, I got 3 pieces. I'm good to go. What 3 pieces do you have? An angle, included side, and an angle. So that is a good reason to show triangles are congruent. TUV is congruent to WXY. Number 26, you can add. What can you add? You can add a shared side. Do you have enough stuff? Nope. I only have 2 pieces. How many do I need? That's right, you need 3, so this is not possible. Number 27, what did you add? You added vertical angles, good job. Do you have congruent triangles? Well, do you have 3 pieces? Yes, you do. What 3 pieces do you have? You have 2 angles and a non-included side. Very good. So EFG is congruent to EHD. If you said that, you are correct. All right, the last part is going to start really digging deep into some proof writing that we're going to start when we come back. Use the given information to mark the diagram. So now we're going to be given some stuff that we're allowed to mark on our picture. So if you take a look at number 28, I'm going to get my little red pencil out because I'm going to mark what they're giving me here. So they're given that CD is congruent to AB. So I'm going to mark CD congruent to AB. They're also telling me that angle B is congruent to angle D. So I can mark angle B congruent to angle D. That's only 2 pieces though. Can I add a third? Absolutely. What third piece can I add? Did you say vertical angles? You are correct. So now I have my 3 pieces. What 3 pieces do I have? I have 2 angles and a side. It's not angle, side, angle, but it's angle, angle, side because that side is not included. All right, now my congruent statement. CDE is congruent to ABE. Try to see if you can figure out number 29. You can pause the video and then join in when you finished. Number 29, it says JN is congruent to LM. NK is congruent to MK. You notice I use different tick marks there because they're different segments. Angle N is congruent to angle M. Do I have 3 things? Yes, I do. What 3 things did you have? Side, an included angle, and a side. So we can say JKN is congruent to LKM. Number 30, we have overlapping triangles. We have triangle ABC, and it overlaps triangle ADB. 2 ways to do this. You can color one in, you can trace one, or you can pull the 2 triangles apart. Make sure you name them correctly. So when I pulled my triangles apart, this is what I get. So they're telling me that AC is congruent to BD and AD is congruent to BC. Can I legally add anything else? And the answer is yes. Before I pulled my triangles apart, they shared the side AB. And if you noticed, when I pulled them apart, they both have an AB. So AB is congruent to AB. It's the same segment. So do I have 3 things? I do. Side, side, side. So I would say that triangle ABC is congruent to triangle BAD. All right, last one. We have this special word here called bisect. They bisect each other, which means they're going to cut each other in half. So SQ is cutting PR in half, making PT congruent to TR. And because they're bisecting each other, ST is also congruent to TQ. So those two segments are bisecting each other. They're cutting each other in half. All right, so that only gives me two pieces. I need a third. Do you see a third piece I can legally add? That's right, I can legally add vertical angles. So I've got three things. I've got a side, included angle, and a side. So RST is congruent to PQT. All right, so hopefully we have done plenty of examples for you to be able to complete your Delta Math assignment. And on your Delta Math assignment, you'll have to show whether or not the triangles are congruent or not by using one of the 5 reasons. And remember, some things you can add legally are shared side and vertical angles, and that's it. You cannot add anything else unless they've given you a given statement. And I don't think Delta Math has given you any given statements. I think they're only giving you pictures like we did on 1 through 27. All right, if you have any questions or you get stuck, please let me know, and good luck.